We have Miss Latrice McFadden in the building. She is the president of, let me make sure I got it right, TRIBOR?
Correct.
I said it right.
You did.
Okay, and tell everyone what TRIBOR stands for.
TRIBOR stands for the Triangle Board of Realtists.
Realtists.
Yes.
Yes. And you guys have an amazing event coming up on the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is essentially a lending fair for anyone who may have questions about possible home ownership, first-time homeowners, anyone who may have had multiple homes and just needs that information. And this is happening right here in Raleigh, June 25th. So let everyone know a little bit about that event that you got going on.
Okay, thank you. First, thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited. So we, the Triangle Board of Realtors, we're the local chapter of NARAB, and our mantra is democracy in housing. So we want to increase home ownership in the Black community. So that's the focus. There's a huge disparity between home ownership in our community versus other communities. So, and a lot of times people are really just afraid to get the information. You've heard a lot of things. I have to have 20%. I even myself as an example, my dad told me, you should buy a house. And I was like, I can't buy a house. My credit is a mess. And da-da-da-da-da. But he said it to me, and then I went and got the information. I was able to buy my first house before I turned 30. So we want to have an opportunity for people to come out. It's no pressure. We will have between 8 and 10 lenders there with different types of products, because there's different things that are appropriate for different people. And you'll be able to go and talk to each lender that you're interested in. You can find out, do they offer down payment assistance? Do they offer 100% financing? There's rural loans if you want to be out in the rural areas, USDA, all kinds of different programs that are available, whether you are a first-time home buyer, whether you bought your first house 2 years ago, 10 years ago. I had clients recently that they had been in their home for 40 years, and so it was almost like being a first-time home buyer, because things had changed so much. So we're here to get you educated on what you need financially, and if you're not ready, to give you the guidance that you need to get ready.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to be doing that day.
That's awesome. First of all, thank you all for putting this together, because there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of just not knowing. When it comes to home ownership, people are paying attention to social media, saying, oh, well, you have to do this, you got to do that. Or they're seeing people with the big houses, not knowing, what it took to get to that point. So for you to be able to provide an event like this and for it to be free is awesome. The thing is, we need you all to take advantage of it.
That's that part right there.
Because the information is literally right there for you. So one of the questions that I have for you is, when it comes to home ownership, why do you think there is such a gap between people of color and, non-people of color? Is it due to the lack of education?
Lack of education, not thinking that we don't, in our community, we don't always have the history of seeing people in our family own homes. Right. So if you don't see that, then you don't think it's necessarily something that you can achieve. Obviously, discrimination is an issue. One of the things that TRIBOR or NARAB does is what we call the SHEBA report, State of Housing in Black America. And in that report, it breaks down information about the number of mortgages that we actually apply for. Each category actually applies for, what's approved, the percentages that are approved. And, sadly, it's still an issue today. So there are a lot of great programs, but we need advocates to get you through, to get you to what you need to do.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you mentioned that, because those are, that right there, as far as, the mortgages not being approved is one thing that I hear of. And then whenever someone is interested in selling their home, that is a person of color, undervaluing their homes, how often does that happen?
I can't tell you exactly how often it happens, but it can happen more often than we would think. So we definitely have to, that whole appraisal issue is a whole nother conversation with that, and just making sure that you get, and we had a panel with appraisers a couple of months ago. So there's some things, there's definitely some issues that need to be addressed.
Absolutely.
And with the appraisal issue, so you have to go to bat. You have to have a team. I tell people when you're buying a house or selling a house, your team is your realtor, your lender. We're your team, and we're working with you to get the goal achieved and make sure that you get the best deal possible.
Absolutely. And when you talk about relationships, because I've heard some people joke and say, like, my realtor is my best friend now. Like, they're a part of the family. You know, so how much time should you spend with a realtor to kind of decide, this is my person, this is the person who's going to get me exactly what it is that I want?
I mean, sometimes you know right off. So I think it's just a matter of you establishing the relationship, asking the questions, feeling comfortable with the answers. And I've had people to say, you know, I was talking to this person and I just didn't necessarily, you know, feel a good match with them. And that's another part of also with the lender fair, is that we want you to make a match with the lender as well.
Absolutely.
So we know, we have intuition, and we know that this person really has our best interest at heart, and that we match personality wise and things like that. So I think it's just a matter of you getting to know each other and feeling comfortable and asking questions and the answers that you get. So, and I tell everybody that your situation, your real estate experience is going to be different than everybody else's. So, you know, your mom, your dad, your cousin, your best friend, they might have just bought a house last year, but your experience can be very, very different from theirs. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that you also brought up the point of not seeing the generational wealth, and not seeing, you know, your parents or your parents' parents, grandparents, or whomever not really have that ownership, or not really valuing that ownership, because one of the things we think is, oh, immediately sell it, you know, instead of holding on to that property. And as we can see, for those of you who are watching and listening, I'm not from Raleigh, but I've seen how land and houses have skyrocketed in the past 10 years, that if people would have just sat on these houses, sat on this land, you know, look at the wealth that you're generating by just allowing it to, you know, sit. So when you see these people who, you know, are unaware, they're scared, they're not quite sure if they should take that leap, what is something that you would tell them just to reassure them that, hey, it's okay to own a home. It's okay.
Yeah. That it's okay. To take that first step to get the information. It is going to be for most people, it's the biggest purchase that we make in our life. So you want to take your time and understand, but you also, especially with the market that we're kind of coming out of and still in just a little bit, depending on the price point, you have to be ready to make a move.
Right.
Because there are still price points in houses that they can still have multiple offers. So do your research, get your information, know what you want, be open to being flexible, because sometimes people think, I got to have A, B, C, D in that order. And so I tell people to keep your options open and, you know, maybe consider some other things. You may have to consider outside of the triangle. And then if you're buying a first home, that's what it is. It's your first home. So it doesn't have to be your dream home, but you want it to be a sound investment, so that you, in a few years down the road, you can take that money, either sell that house and take the equity out and put it towards buying your dream home or your next step home, or even it's a good opportunity to be an investment, like especially young people that don't, you know, before you've settled down and have children and it's fairly easy to move, buy that first home, make it something that you know that would be a good investment so that you can rent it out later on. Or maybe if you did need to take some of the equity out, because that's another option with the lenders. And if people have homes and want to figure out how to be able to use some of the equity, those are questions that you'll be able to ask at the event on Sunday too, because it's a wealth building tool, and you can figure out, you know, maybe I take some money out of this house and use that equity to put it towards the next house. So just, you know, talk to somebody, get the education, and make sure it makes sense.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
to you. So just, you know, get the information, get the first step. Because like I said, when my dad was like, you need to buy a house, I was like, I can't buy a house.
Right.
And I was able to buy a house, but I had to, you know, reach out to somebody, get educated, and figure out what I needed to do, and I had to do a little bit of work on my credit.
Is this really an ideal market to buy a house?
I think you have to look at your individual situation, because a lot of people nowadays are like, the interest rates are so high and I'm going to wait for interest rates to go back down. And when you wait for the interest rates to go back down, that means the demand and the competition is going to be higher, and prices do not seem to be falling out of the sky. So I would say that look at your situation. If you are financially stable, you've got a good job or had your job or employment for at least 2 years, you have some money in the bank, because even if you are able to do 100% financing, because North Carolina is a due diligence state, you have to have some money to make your offer competitive. That is non-refundable when you make that offer to the seller. But so you need to have some money in the bank to be able to, and then you don't want to just have money for the house purchase. You want to have money to furnish your house.
Yeah, you don't want to be house broke.
You don't want to be house poor. Yes, that's what I always tell people. You don't want to be house poor, and you want to be able to, because I still like to go out to eat. I like to travel, and then you're going to be looking at this house, this big old house you bought, and you're like, Latrice let me buy this house. I'm so mad at her, and I'm gone on about my business, you know. So,
exactly.
And I would say listen to your realtor. Have a, listen to the conversation, because I recently was with a client that I think they bought in 2018, and we just sold their house, and she was pointing out, she's like, yeah, you told us to do this, this, and this, and some things they listened to, and some things they didn't, and she was like, I wish I had listened to you when you said ABC. So establish that relationship. I mean, obviously, I tell people it's your final decision. I'm here to help take some of the emotion out of it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to listen to what you tell me that you want and you're interested in, and I'm going to guide you to that and say, oh, no, you told me this is what you wanted or needed in a house. This doesn't exactly match, because sometimes with the way the market is and it being so competitive, you may not be able to find exactly what you want, but I want you to get what you need so that you can be happy with it. So I think it, like I said, it's just you really need to sit down and have a conversation with your realtor, with the loan officer, look at the big picture, because maybe you need to wait 6 months or a year to plan, and don't get impatient, because sometimes people will say, oh, well, I had saved up all this money and then I just got whatever, so I went on vacation. You can't do that. And you got to stick the course. And so maybe you come up with, I tell families, tell your children what you're trying to do. Tell your family, the family that's not going to negate you, what you're trying to do, so that when it's time for the holidays and birthday parties and stuff, and you're like, I can't, do this, they can understand why you're doing what you're doing, and hopefully they'll support you and understand that, I can't give you this big, huge birthday party or Christmas gift or whatever, and then if you want to give me something, please, make a donation to my being able to buy my house.
Yes.
So you want to, have a group that has like mind and is going to support you, and not say, oh, you can't buy a house. Nobody in your family's ever owned a house. So you got to make sure that you don't have the dream killers.
Absolutely. And that's really important as far as community goes. And one of the things that I also want to, pick your brain about is predatory loans and how to be mindful of that when you're kind of navigating your homeownership journey.
And so this event is going to be a great thing, because I always encourage working with local lenders, someone that you can pick up the phone, call them, direct dial, usually to a cell phone, or go to their office, where they are. So having, again, that relationship, and listening to what they're saying, and if something doesn't make sense to you, question it. And if the answers don't make sense to you, go ask somebody else before you make the decision. Or if something sounds like it's too good to be true, and then having patience, because a lot of times we might get into these situations because we're just like, I want a house, I need a house right now, I don't care what it costs me, and then it's going to end up costing you everything in the future. So using a lot of common sense, relationships, looking at what the numbers are, making sure that you compare apples to apples, and talking to more than one lender to make sure that what they're telling you is a match. And looking through, what is my interest rate? Are you charging me discount points? What is my principal and interest going to be? What are my taxes and insurance? Shopping your insurance. So a lot of times, I know back in the 2008, I tell people you used to be able to just be breathing
and
you could get a mortgage. Nowadays, it's a little more difficult than that. Sometimes I say they want your firstborn. So you have to be prepared to provide all the information. So your tax returns for 2 years. If you are self-employed, you definitely want to get those scrutinized very clearly. Or even if you have a W-2 job, but you have a business on the side, you cannot have written off all of the things from your business. So those are things that you want to have looked at before. Bank statements. They're going to want 2 months of bank statements, check stubs, and you got to they're going to want to know why you have this large cash deposit. What's this from Cash App? So you can't be like, y'all in my business, because they're going to be in your business.
It's intrusive, yeah.
They're going to be in your business, so just get prepared for that. And like I said, it's having those relationships with a lender and a realtor that you feel comfortable and trust, and that they are definitely, looking out for your best interest. If you tell them that, because I tell people you can get pre-approved for this amount, but do you feel comfortable with that? Because you got to look at the payment. You got to be prepared to make any repairs, because there's no more landlord that's going to come fix your toilet or your water heater or HVAC. And when you're looking at the houses, you want to know the ages of things. So,
absolutely.
If the roof is 20 years old, it's probably going to need to be replaced soon. If the water heater is 10, 15 years old, it's probably going to need to be replaced soon. So you want to have a budget in mind, so that, savings accounts, emergency funds, so that you can be prepared for it.
That's awesome. And some really great tips. And one of the other questions that I have for you is, for the event, how should someone prepare? Is there anything they need to prepare outside of just bringing themselves?
So they can register at TRIBORpresents.com. It's free registration. So that's the first step. Go and register, so we'll know how many people to expect. The second thing is that, yes, if you can, the lenders won't have time to actually do pre-approvals at that point. But if you can bring those documents I just mentioned, or at least have them handy, your bank statements for 2 months, your tax returns for 2 years, your check stubs for 2 years, that will be a good starting point. And if you could bring that with you, you may be able to get time, a little bit more one-on-one time with them, so that they can look at that. And then you can even leave it with them and schedule an appointment for that upcoming week, so that you can have that one-on-one meeting and get pre-approved, and you want to be pre-approved before you go out looking versus pre-qualified. And the lenders will talk about what, pre-approved means that they've gone through all in your business. They've said, yes, this is going to work. This is going to work. No, I need you to bring me this. Pre-qualified just means, they may have pulled your credit, but they haven't verified everything, because everybody's situation is different. Nurses, teachers, because teachers, sometimes they may get paid over the course of the 12 months, or they may get paid over the course of the school year. So they need to look at all of that in depth, because like I said before, we're a due diligence state. So when you get ready to make that offer, you're going to put down some non-refundable money. And you don't want to find out after you put down that money that, they didn't know that you really made this much, and they pre-qualified you based on that different amount. So
absolutely,
you want to make sure that you have all of that done in advance. So
awesome. So then let everyone know where the event will take place, and then I believe it's from what, 2 to 5:30. 2 to 5:30.
2 to 5:30. And it is going to be in Raleigh at the Greystone Recreation Center, on Lead Mine Road. I thought I had the specific address, but it's on Lead Mine Road. And if you go to TRIBORpresents.com, all of that information is there. And we're going to have a couple of guest speakers. We're going to have author Carmen Cawthon, who wrote the book Historic Black Neighborhoods in Raleigh. So she's going to be there. And then Councilman Corey Branch is going to be there as well. So we're going to have some special guests, some good information. We're partnering with a couple of the restaurants there, so we might have some special incentives for you to go and get something to eat with them. If you need to bring your children, there's a little play area in the in the facility. So we're just trying to do our best to make it conducive for you to come out, and we'll have door prizes. Each of the lenders will be providing a raffle prize, so no reason not to come out on a Sunday afternoon and just hang out with us and find out what you need to do. If you've been thinking about you want to, sell your current home and step up, or if it's just your first home or you haven't owned in a while, come find out what you need to do to get the ball rolling.
Girl, I'm scared, but I'm coming.
Come on.
I'm terrified, but I will be there.
We have phenomenal lenders. All the lenders in TRIBOR they're just really great people that care. Most of the different lenders have incentives or special programs that are available. And you'd be surprised at some of the places where some of the programs are, and you can still use 100% financing. So
awesome.
There's a lot of options. So
awesome. So essentially, you guys need to take the time to educate yourselves. I know that it can be a scary process, but it's a rewarding process, and it's a process that needs to happen because, like you said, we want to start closing that gap. And there's nothing better than hearing our people who look like us saying, I'm a homeowner, I have, generational wealth. It's a beautiful feeling, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I would like to see more of that. So make sure you guys take your time, get your information together, your taxes.
To use your tax returns.
Your
2 months of bank statements. 2 months of check stubs.
Your blood type, your firstborn.
All of that. Bring it all. But no, come out, get the information. And even if you might not be able to get that information on you, just come out, check it out anyway. It's going to be awesome. Like I said, I will be there 100%, and we're going to support any way that we can. So I thank you so much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all. I think it's going to be a fabulous event that you will not regret coming to. And like she said, if you don't have all that information, don't use it as an excuse. Come on out anyway.
I know that's right.
Come on out anyway. We'll get it from you.
Exactly.
And, we'll go from there. And the lenders nowadays, you can do everything online. You don't have to go, unless you're old school and you want to. You can still do that, but you can upload your documents. They tell you exactly what you need, and you don't even have to leave your house after that.
Boom. Look at that.
Yep.
So thank you so much. This isn't the last time.
Yes,
You've done a official interview with TDS Radio, which means you're a part of the family, which means that the door's open for you to always come back because there are a lot of other questions that we have for you. So we hope that you do.
I would love to.
Look at that.
Thank you.
Another family member, y'all. So keep it locked right here. It's TDS Radio, our voice, our culture.